The Resident Evil 2 Remake is a great game. It did an excellent job of reviving an old classic with improved graphics and better game mechanics. It gave us all another opportunity to, once again, step into the world of survival horror and enjoy all the aspects of what made Resident Evil such a great franchise. That being said, there are, however, some flaws within the game. And that's not exactly surprising. What game is without flaws? I should point out that in an interview with Capcom's brand manager Mike Lunn, he mentioned that the new Resident Evil 2 is not exactly a remake, and I quote, "It won't be faithful one-to-one. For someone that's played the game, some people played it once and some people played it 1,000 times because it's their favorite game. For the people that have played it 1,000 times, we wanted it to feel fresh. That's why we don't call it Resident Evil 2 Remake, it's a new game built on top of the foundation." Fine. Although some players, including myself, will have trouble separating the two, especially since Capcom did promise us a remake back in 2015. Perhaps naming it Resident Evil 2 Remake would have put too much pressure on the team? At any rate, a lot of people do actually consider this a remake, so I will be referring to it as such. Keep in mind that the following points I'll mention are just my opinion. Just some things that sort of bothered me about the game. Don't get me wrong, I still love the remake and its atmosphere and the way it played out. But these things took away from the enjoyment, ever so slightly. So let's begin. Be warned though, this video will contain spoilers, so maybe play the game if you haven't already, and then you can come back to this video. Firstly, let's talk about the music. If you remember the Resident Evil 1 remake, you'll recall that Capcom remade the original soundtrack as well. And if not, I'll place an example in the background. You can hear the soundtrack Neptune Tank from the original, and then the remake. You see, I was looking forward to seeing this sort of thing in the Resident Evil 2 Remake, but no such luck. Well, that's not entirely correct actually. They did remake the save room theme, as well as the RPD hall theme. Disappointing thing is that the track lasts maybe 10 seconds max, and then fades away. When it comes to the save room, the theme doesn't even play upon re-entering the room. I found this quite unsatisfying. The feeling of being free from fear, the feeling of relief, just wasn't as accentuated as in the original. Sure, enemies could not enter the save rooms no matter how hard they tried. Here's looking at you, Mr. X. But the silence in the rooms didn't do much in terms of maintaining or creating atmosphere. That's not to say I didn't enjoy the other soundtrack in the game. For example, Mr. X's chase theme was pretty intense, and so was his boss battle theme too. But otherwise, the music was pretty standard. And you may be telling me you could have just played the game with the original soundtrack DLC. And you'd be right, and I did. But Capcom asking for extra money just to hear the original soundtrack again? Yeah, that's pretty shitty. Next point, the scenarios. In the first and second run, you're playing through mostly the same areas, doing the same puzzles, and fighting the same bosses. Story-wise, there's little to no variation among the two. I'll give you an example. With Leon's A and B scenarios, Ada dies in the same way. Whereas in the original, she falls after the facility is collapsing in the A scenario, and gets wrecked by Mr. X in the B scenario, which is the canon ending according to Capcom.
Ada!
It makes me wonder why they went with the falling ending in the remake. You know what? Scratch that. I know why Capcom tossed that ending. Does Leon not know how to check for a pulse? I don't care how good Ada is at faking being dead, you'd still check for a pulse. Anyway, that's not to say that the original Resident Evil 2 did not have continuity errors within the scenarios. It sure did. I don't know, it just felt lazy in the remake. It was really disappointing not getting to see those differences between the campaigns. Now, as for the individual characters, I didn't really have a problem with them. And no, I'm not going to complain about their new designs. I actually like their new looks. Okay, wait. I feel like Ada was trying to look as least suspicious as possible, while looking as suspicious as possible. I'm not gonna criticize her about that red cocktail dress underneath her coat, because, let's be honest, look at what she wore in Resident Evil 4. Now that I mention it, it did feel like they tweaked Ada the most. In the original, she was this amateur spy pretending to look for her boyfriend John. That's scrapped in the remake, as she was posing as an FBI agent. In the original, Ada was this broken woman who ended up making many mistakes, one of which was falling for Leon and losing sight of her main objective. Just take a look at how vulnerable she was after Birkin attacked her in the rail car.
Ada! Welcome back. Hey, take it easy. We're inside Umbrella's secret lab. I'll go find something to treat that wound, so just rest here in the meantime.
But I'll only slow you down with these injuries. Go. Save yourself.
Is it just me, or does everybody always ignore what I say? I told you, it's my job to look after you.
But you'll be in danger if you stay with me. I know I've only known you for a short period of time, but I really enjoy being with you. I know I'm not capable of caring about anyone, but I don't want to lose you.
We're leaving this place together. Wait here for me. I'll be right back.
In the remake, on the other hand, Ada seemed way more capable, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would argue that the events of Resident Evil 2 shaped who she is as a person and led to character development that are very noticeable in later installments. In Resident Evil 4, for instance, Ada knows to keep her distance from Leon as to not make the same mistake she made in Resident Evil 2, meanwhile keeping a close protective eye on him in case he manages to get himself into trouble. Fast forward to the remake, Ada felt like she's already been through all of that. And I get that it may have not been her first mission, but she seemed too experienced. Maybe it's just me, but her portrayal in the original seemed more realistic. But I'll let you be the judge of that. Now, the next one is only minor. It concerns the enemies encountered in the remake. I personally loved what they did with Plant 43 or Ivy. Mr. X was terrifying. The lickers and dogs were annoying as every other Resident Evil game, so nothing really different here. What surprised me was the lack of crows, spiders, and that one moth. Those enemies were present in the original game, but nowhere to be found in the new one. Well, maybe that's a good thing because the crows were kinda really irritating. I can't say I wasn't looking forward to seeing them though. So, there you have it. Just some thoughts on where the remake kinda disappointed. That's not to say it's not a great game. I definitely recommend giving it a playthrough. It was great, but it could have been better in my opinion. You may be thinking, well, those criticisms just stem out of nostalgia. And yeah, you'd be right, that's absolutely a factor. But you see, Resident Evil 2 was a classic among many people's childhoods, or adolescence, or maybe even adulthood. I can only speak for myself when I say that the game meant a lot to me, and seeing those things that I mentioned earlier would have been a very pleasant trip down memory lane. Thank you so much for watching, it means a lot to me. I really hope you stick around for more. And if you do, I'll see you in the next one.